Alright, so for those who are gonna watch this offline, the plan for today is gonna be starting with a few little introduction to show a little bit the game mechanics and some advice for those who want to clear the demo to test it by themselves. Clear the first chapter and the second chapter up to the final boss, and then do a full review there, because I'll be able to unlock a bunch of stuff and explain a few things about the game that are good, a little bit ugly, and basically give you my opinion and first impressions about the game. So without further ado, let's get started with a new game.
Can you hear me? Geppetto's puppet. We need your help. Ah, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. I see they got Jiminy too. But we have to hurry. My name is Sophia. Please come to Hotel Krot, and I'll explain what's happening. Jiminy, please escort him to the hotel. Let's get you out of there. Find something that might help. But the streets are not safe. Arm yourself with one of the weapons over there. It'll be helpful on your way to the hotel.
So, quick advice here: if you want to clear the game without too much trouble, it's better to go with the great sword. So I'll explain later, but the most important aspect of this game is something they call groggy. It's like basically building up something like called grogginess, and until the enemy gets stunned, and then you can do massive damage. So if you go with a dexterity type of weapon like this one, it's not gonna be great, because it takes forever to build that groggy state effect, and then its fights become much longer and a lot more difficult. So with the great sword, you build up like the groggy effect much faster, and it allows you to clear the game much more easily. Later on, you can essentially mix and match the weapons to find something that matches your playstyle. But for the starting point, it's better to go with a strength type of weapon.
Destination Hotel Krot. Recommend escaping from this location.
So the fighting is pretty easy. You have two basic attack buttons. This. second basic attack again, that does a little bit more damage, and then charge attack, which is hold the strong attack button, and then it's gonna do a lot more damage. So there is more into that. I call them the Fable Arts, and those are like they do a lot of damage, but you need to farm some stamina on the way while you fight enemies.
Welcome to Crop Station, everyone. Here you will witness the most spectacular display of human endeavor on Earth. If Crop is your final destination, we wish you a safe and prosperous day.
So this game is similar to Team Ninja games where the story is linear and then you have shortcuts like this one. Right now this door is locked, and later on you can open it from the other side and then come here to like for save points. So this is the main boss room. I need a key.
You cannot see in the dark. Switch me on and gently will light away.
So on the bottom right, you can see that the weapon has some sort of life to it. So the more you use it, the more it chips away, and you have to resharpen it over time. It's an annoying aspect of the game, which a lot of players have criticized. So hopefully, it's not going to be in the final version of the game. So walking behind slowly, you can assassinate enemies similar to most Souls-like games. So the jump is very awkward in this game. Keep forgetting how to jump. Yeah, so this is very awkward. It's mostly used on Python. Essentially, you run at full speed and then you release the left stick button and then trigger it again, and then he's gonna jump. You can't jump over obstacles, so it's mostly or actually dodging during combat. So that's the first mini boss of the chapter. With the key. Yeah, I don't think there's a checkpoint here. Nope. So here I'm gonna like talk briefly about the physics of like the visuals of the game. So when you look at it from this perspective, it looks pretty nice. But one thing to notice is that they focused heavily on textures. So this game has beautiful textures, and it looks great even on medium hardware. Like a GTX 360, for example, is gonna run really well on it. Some issues that the game has is really bad water physics. You can see here, like the puddles, it's very basic. Sometimes the water effect when walking over it doesn't even trigger. The water on your character is also, he has like a wet texture, but it's the water doesn't actually drop on him that much, or on its weapon. So they did cut through corners when it comes to the visuals. The worst is probably the foliage. It's almost non-existent, and in some areas like here, it's not reactive. It doesn't feel like a 2023 game. Feels more like a early 2000 game. Has really rough foliage implementation. So So this is the save point, which refills health. These health potions, if you use it, and it also fills up the... I wonder if I can actually use the mouse now. The Fable Art.
This is called a
Engage.
stargazer. A marvelous device. As we are not strong enough to beat the puppets. But if I lend my power to this stargazer for a moment, gather ergo, clever one. This stargazer will make you stronger. But the stargazer's strength doesn't last forever, so be careful with it.
So in terms of level up, these stats, a lot of them are useless. One thing I did try quickly was the reducing the capacity. So I thought it's gonna be similar to a Team Ninja game, where if we reduce the weight, percentage of weight, it's displayed here. Then here, for example, it's 49%. I've reduced it down to 20%, and I have not noticed any difference at all. So I basically spent a lot on capacity, leaving my damage and stamina very low, and it was pretty much a waste. So my advice, when you start off the game at least, is to focus on these 3 stats here. And these are basically what increases your damage, increases the physical attack, and if you increase these stats, you can basically tweak them so that maybe one of the stats is going to be higher than the others, and you choose the stat that matches the weapon that you are using. Let me explain here. So here it's this. Each weapon has certain affinity towards some stats, and they go from A to D or E, I think. So here it says how it scales with emotivity, advance, and technique. So it's this particular weapon scales well with emotivity, and which means I can focus, for example, on increasing emotivity, and it's going to give me extra stats for my weapon and do more damage. So for the purpose of this review, I'm gonna try to balance all motivity, technique, and advance so that I can try multiple weapons. So I'll try to keep all the stats balanced. So all of these stats, when you increase them, they also increase defense and resistance. And some of them increase the Legion. Legion is basically the arm, artificial arm he's using. It has its own gauge that is affected by some of these stats. But these are not really big deal. So this game, unlike Team Ninja games, doesn't drop a lot of random loot, which is something that most people dislike about Team Ninja games, so you don't have to worry here. The amount of loot is very low. Let's continue. Another example of poor physics. The fire looks pretty meh. Second mini boss.
powerful parade puppet is blocking the entrance, and that's the only way in. So please, be careful.
Hello there! Welcome to Krot, visitor. I didn't think you didn't hear? Figures. The whole organization fell apart. All that's left are wannabes and amateurs who think they can fight on their own. You ought to buy some. Out here alone?
So I'm gonna buy the weapons I don't have. So the first boss is weak to electricity, so if you buy this, it's gonna make your life easier. But the boss is not too difficult, so I'm just gonna buy these weapons so that I can test them later to show some stuff. This is an electricity bomb as well. It can help in the fight, but I'd rather increase my stats than waste it on these kind of things. So we reached the final boss up there, so I'm just gonna go to the checkpoint to save my progress and then start fighting the first boss. Let's just buff all my stats before the fight. So enemies will respawn, but I don't need to fight all of them. Deflecting this guy is difficult. The timing is tricky. The second boss is easier to deflect, so I'm trying to dodge. I forgot the timing, so need a little bit of getting used to. Whenever you die, you can get back the blue orbs you lost by going to the place where you died and retrieve them.
out here alone?
It was harder than it should be. The problem with this first boss is the hitbox of his main attacks. They're kind of confusing. It's hard to deflect them. And deflection also increases the groggy state. So if you deflect successfully multiple times, it's easier to beat the boss.
One more thing I should mention. The hotel's security excludes puppets like you. So you'll have to lie to get inside. You're a special puppet after all.
So this game is based on lying. The game gives you choices to lie or tell the truth. But so far in this demo, it's meaningless. Here, if you lie that you are not a puppet,
Welcome to the sanctuary of the Grand
you cannot
Covenant.
enter. So you have to lie, so there's no choice.
Who are you?
So yeah, if I say I'm a puppet, they won't let me, and I tried every way to get in. Maybe it is something, but it's not possible. So you have to say you are human.
Grand Covenant's fourth. Welcome to...
I'm so happy to see you. I am Sophia. I've been waiting for you. Searched all over the city of Krat to find you. You must have questions. Geppetto will have answers, but we have to find him first. He was last seen on Elysian Boulevard. All of Krat is dangerous for humans, and that neighborhood is one of the scariest. Please find Geppetto on Elysian Boulevard. Wait, Krat is a lab. Be careful. Look at Gemini.
Jiminy is
That's proof. I'm no invent. I'll use my power to help. I'll use my power to help.
So this is literally like based off of Devil May Cry 5. This girl is essentially making weapons for you.
I heard about you from Geppetto, but to see you in person... Wow! You should take this. Geppetto left it with me.
Lazy animations. And this is also similar to the grapple that Nero has in DMC5. But it's not as practical. I'll explain it later. Actually, I'm just gonna explain now. So this is the problem with this one. Where is it? Oh. No, never mind. Where is it? Yeah, this is the one. It says it can be strung around an enemy to drag them towards you or to move you toward them. So if you use other games that use grapple mechanics, you drag towards yourself the light enemies, like small enemies, and if the enemy is too big to move towards you, you move towards them. But this move towards them doesn't work. I've tried it multiple times, it just doesn't work. But it's really good to quickly wipe out like small enemies. So I'm just gonna use it for clearing small enemies from now on. So you can't really go towards the enemy with the can't pull in the enemy. It's broken. Anyway. So this is an example of why I think the visuals of this game, you have great textures. If you look at the floor, the stones, the walls, the attention to detail in these buildings, it looks amazing. But the water physics is almost non-existent. This is bottled water, but it doesn't have any effects. The foliage, this is pretty much as bad as Tomb Raider 1. It's really bad. It has no effect. You walk over it, it just passes through. The trees have 2D textures. Again, yeah, early 2000s, late 90s type of visuals. It's pretty bad. And even like grass like this doesn't react at all. So this is not a 2023 game. The other thing is the lighting. It looks nice, but the shadow casting is kind of broken. So if you get very close to a light source, it's gonna cast only one shadow. And if you go to another light source, you only have one shadow. And when you are in between, the shadow disappears. So it's a single light source type of shadow that it is casting. I don't really mind. I don't really care for those kind of details, but it's not as, you know, visually appealing as the modern like Souls-like games.
Hey, let's be more careful. The Black Rabbit Brotherhood. I hate these guys. But don't be alarmed. My name is Gemini. We'll talk later, when we're safe.
I forgot to upgrade my weapon. No, I'm not gonna upgrade the weapon. Because I want to do comparison later. Never mind. So I'm gonna be making it a little bit harder on myself, but it shouldn't be too hard to reach the final boss. So here's how good the grapple is. You just do this.
Elysian Boulevard was a regular rich people row. You wanted fancy boutiques and shops. No place better. But that was long ago. Before the puppet frenzy.
I don't remember this box. No, it's the first mini boss. It's chapter. These guys are the most annoying.
Why, hello! I didn't know anyone was alive out here. I know what
Don't worry.
for your information.
This is another my thing about this game. If you want to upgrade stats or weapons or anything like that, you have to go to the hotel.
I'll use my power. I'll use my power to help you.
The sound of it alone. That crap must be something. Oh, I know my way around. If any of your. I know my way around.
So I can only upgrade one weapon, but I want to compare them later, so I'm not gonna upgrade anything.
Wait, I can sense something strange. Jeepers! Is that a butterfly?
didn't get anything?
My poor baby.
Look at these flat textures. Actually, this looks nice. A little bit. Yeah, it is flat.
Oh, babe, thank you. The royalist. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'll use my power to help you.
out, Geppetto! You've got a lot to answer for! You know what caused the puppet frenzy, don't you? You're their maker, practically their father! You... What's your
Wait, you're the devil.
You can't sneak past me! Die! Then string you up on the bridge!
This boss is easy because you just need to go behind it and attack it and break its weapon with deflecting.
Finally, we meet, son.
It's a dream come true.
I understand, but in order, I want to hear all about your experiences. Use this. We'll catch up.
So, about that weapon assembly tool you were talking about. If you find any more weapons, let's try using them here.
I'll use my power to help you.
survivors here. What do we do? Just give her that baby puppet?
I'll use my power to...
You found her, kind one. I could sense her from miles away. Oh, my sweet Elena. Please let me hold her. Oh, there, my baby. I've missed you so much. What do you think? Isn't my baby adorable? What's wrong, kind one? This is my baby. My sweet Elena. Did my family convince you to lie? Don't do it. That road leads to nothing but sadness. I should know. I am so grateful to you, kind one. Please take this token of gratitude.
So here we see another problem of this game. The narrative is too slow. Like every time the NPCs talk, they take forever. And the choices they give you, essentially whether you lie or you don't lie, so far they have been inconsequential. You always get some sort of reward. Here, I don't remember exactly what she gave me, but it was also something smaller reward that's not really a big deal. So far this choice-based system is kind of almost useless. Even though the game is called Lies of P, you'd think that the lying would have a little bit more consequences. So now it's the time for the final boss. And before I do that, I'm going to start the full review. And I'll show some the final boss as an example of the good and the bad about the game.
I'll use my power gel.
So in this room, I'm gonna do the review of most of the important elements. So the first thing that we care about is gameplay. So this is a Souls-like game with heavy focus on deflecting mechanisms, similar to Sekiro and many other Souls-like. But the problem with this game is that it focuses too much on deflecting. Deflecting is very essential. It breaks weapons, it builds up grogginess. So grogginess is probably the most important metric of the game. They only explain it here, it's poorly documented. So when you attack an enemy or you deflect the attacks on an enemy, the groggy status effect builds up. Once it fills up, the health bar becomes white, flashes white. And what you need to do here is use a charged attack so that you force the enemy to enter a groggy state. Once they are in the groggy state, then you can do a finishing move. The other problem with this mechanic is that the finishing move, you have to be exactly at the right place in order to trigger it. Let me show an example. So here I'm gonna try to build the groggy state by using some attacks. Now I filled up the meter. We don't know how much, but it fills up, right? And then once it's here, so once the meter is filled up, you use a charge attack, and then the enemy enters the groggy state. Let's try again. Now, when you are here, you have to be exactly in front of it, and then use a finishing move, which does massive damage. It's probably the highest damage in the game for a given weapon and stats. So for this puppet, you can go behind and you can still trigger that, but for most enemies you have to be placed exactly where the game asks you to, otherwise you can't do the finishing move. When the enemy is in a groggy state, you have a few seconds of basically some spare time in the groggy state, so that you can either run towards the place where you are supposed to go in order to do the finishing move, or you can do additional damage and then do the finishing move. For example, I'm gonna force the enemy in groggy state, do another attack. Oh, I messed up. So let's try again. No. Keep hitting the wrong button. So now. So that final attack just before you using the finishing move, that was just a normal attack to do extra damage. Or large enemies usually have a little bit more time, so you can use another charge attack, or you can use Fable Arts. Let's try with Fable Arts. Like this. So I did use Fable Arts just before the finishing move to do extra damage. Okay, so bad. So that's about it. So it's poorly documented, and building up grogginess depends on the weapon you use and your stats. And again, poorly documented. And if you use a different type of weapon, it takes more hits, which makes battles harder. For example, here I'm using. If we look at the stats, I made sure that at least most of the stats are the same: motivated, technique, and advanced, which means no matter, most weapons should have roughly similar attack range. Great swords have higher attack, base attack, then dexterity has the lowest attack. So there's a little bit of range of in terms of the attack stat, like the physical attack stat. So let's try, for example, how many hits you need in order to force the enemy into a groggy state. So with the heaviest weapon I have, I can do 1, 2, 3, and it's already flashing. Now let's try with the weakest weapon. This is dexterity weapon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. It's 5 hits. So this is just a puppet that we can use for trading, but the problem is that for bosses, this weapon, for example, against the final boss, I'm going to demonstrate it just shortly, is that it's really hard to build groggy state. The reason is the enemy moves around, attacks you, and then while you are on the defensive, the enemy builds up, reduces the groggy meter. And again, we don't have any meter under the enemy, so we don't really know how much we build up, which makes it really hard to follow. Oh, hey man. If you have any questions about the game, let me know. I'm just talking right now. There's not a lot of people that are asking questions. So that was the problem. So it's groggy state is the most important part of the game, the combat gameplay, but it's not documented and it's not really polished compared to the other Souls-like games. So the other massive problem about the enemies is all of them rely on extremely slow to trigger attacks. Essentially, they are gonna raise, like for example, their weapon for several seconds, and it makes it really hard to time the deflection. And it takes a really long time to get used to the timing, and it's essentially a lot of players are calling this a cheap way to increase difficulty. And I agree with that. That's just lack of imagination, because the bosses are pretty well made, but they need a little bit of essentially variation in the speed of their attacks, because they rely way too much on heavy slow attacks. So here is an example. So that even the slow, like small enemies, have these slow attacks, and which is hard to time. But if you time them, it also increases the groggy state, which similar to how you attack. So let's try to block these. So this is not perfect. See, this was a perfect one. Perfect. Continue. It should build. Oh, messed up. So essentially, if you continue on the, I don't know if this puppet is good representative, but against other big bosses, if you deflect timely, you can actually increase the groggy state more easily. So sword upgrades. I haven't done any sword upgrades so that I can compare the weapons. I'll come back there. Let me show you the sword upgrades here.
I know my way around a weapon.
So the way you, well, the weapons you can upgrade the. Oh, actually, I can upgrade all of them at least once. So you need this material, the hidden moonstone. Essentially, all it does is increase the physical attack stat. It doesn't really do anything else. But there is one thing that this game does better than, for example, Wulong, which is the most recent Souls-like game that was released. Wulong has a low difficulty, but in terms of, that's easy to fix. Like Team Ninja can fix that. The problem that is hard to fix for Wulong, which Lies of P does well, is customization of the weapons. So first of all, a small customization is to change the handle material. The way it works is that by default, a weapon has affinity towards some stats. For example, motivity, advance, and technique. Here, motivity is the highest. But let's say I increased my stats in a different way, where, for example, the technique is something I wanted to focus. Let's say in the future you want to build a technique type of build. So you wanna essentially switch to this so that you increase the technique and reduce motivity, so that you can make your weapon have better affinity with the stats you have. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's there for those who want to min-max their builds. The most important feature of the weapons is this one. You can basically mix and match different weapons to build whatever you want. Let me show you an example of something I tried that I liked. So when I was playing initially, I was using the dexterity weapon because I liked this move. Let me, this one. So the charged attack is really nice. It has long reach. It has multiple attacks. Let's see how many hits you need to build Gorgoness. That's basically, it's fast and it has long reach. That's why I like it. The other thing I like is that if I hit without charging, it gives me a free dodge. For example, like this. So basically, you're dodging against an enemy, and then you hit and run. Basically, you can do a hit and run type of gameplay, and then once the enemy is down or something, you can do massive damage. So the question is, how can I use these moves while changing other stats? For example, I want to raise the attack or give some status effects or something like that. So this is where this game has really good customization.
I know my way around a...
So you go here, and let's say I want to keep those moves and give it the electrical effects, status effects. And also there's another thing I wanted to mention, is that the Fable Arts. So here, Fable Arts, they have two. One comes from the handle, one comes from the tip of the weapon. So let's build up a little bit the Fable. Let's build up the blue bar, the blue gauge on the top left. Okay, now it's full. Now the Fable Art with the tip, this is how it looks like. It's also nice, I like it, and it has long reach, does a lot of damage, so I want that. So now the problem is I can't get everything, but I will try to
weapon.
mix and match and see what I can get. So let's say here, for the tip, I'm gonna use this one, which gives... let's just try this and see. And then for the handle, I'm gonna use the rapier's handle. Now let's see what we get. We go here, we choose the new weapon we made. Where the heck is it? Not here.
I know my way around a weapon.
Assemble. I don't think I can find it. We do this. Weapon assemble. Okay. So now, if I look at my weapons, I have this. So the handle from the rapier and this one from the electric stuff. And I lost the handle of this one and the tip of the rapier because I couldn't construct another weapon using those. But let's just see how it looks now. Okay. So let's see the moves here. So you see that because I use the handle from the rapier, it gives me like the moves from the rapier. And if I use the charge attack, this is how it looks like. Now I have electric status effect, long range. So now let's try the Fable Arts. So you see that now it displays blue numbers because it does also electric attacks. So this is really good against enemies that are weak to... Okay, now I have filled up the Fable Arts. Let's try it and see. So this is the difference. So you see that on top left, this is actually a buff. So it gives me a buff and I can do more damage. So it's different from the initial Fable Arts we had before. The other Fable Art is this. When I block, it's basically a deflect. So now try to, let's say you like the Fable Arts of the rapier, and
I know my way around a weapon.
And you like the basic attacks of the electric weapon. Let's try and see how we can make it. So here, the rapier, we use the blade, and the handle, we will use this one. This time, I don't think he... Oops. Okay, now we have all... Now we have 5 weapons. So this is gonna give you basic attacks. So now the basic attacks will look like the electric weapon. It's sideways rather than hitting at the front. And if I use the charge attack, and there is no electricity source. It has long range though. Now the Fable Archer is gonna look pretty nice. Let's see how they look. Alright. Now look at the Fable Art. So now I got the Rapier's Fable Art, which is pretty nice. Let's try the other Fable Art to see how it is. This is on my end. So, for example, one problem with this now weapon combination is that both Fable Arts need three gauges in order to fill up. So let's try to fill it up. That was the finishing move of the rapier. Oh, it takes forever. It's a really slow weapon compared to the original rapier. It's so slow. Okay, now let's see. I do block and then do this. Oh, this is nice. Okay. The Fable arts of this weapon, for example, is really good, as you can see. But the basic movements are really slow, and it's hard to farm Fable arts gauge. So this is an example. The gameplay, the weapon customization is pretty decent. It's not perfect. You can't select everything you want, like in Neo 2, for example, but it's much better than, let's say, Wulong, where it's completely random. And if you like one thing about one move, for example, about a weapon, you are stuck with that move. And I finished Wulong twice in normal difficulty and twice in hard difficulty, and I could not find a single weapon that I liked all the martial arts about it. So this is the basics of the weapon gameplay. So now let's move into the Legion. The Legion is essentially the arm, and this is very similar to Devil May Cry 5. The main difference is that the grapple in Devil May Cry 5 is default on Nero, but in Lies of P, it's only available when you equip this specific Legion weapon, and it has a problem. It says here that if you hit an enemy, you will drag them towards you. Usually, it happens with small enemies, and if you're with large enemies or stationary enemies, it should move you towards them. But this doesn't work. Like for example, this one. I hit it, it doesn't move me towards it, and I tried it on large bosses. It's completely useless. So it does low damage, and it doesn't really do much against bosses. So usually I use this grapple against small enemies to kill them quickly, and then I switch to the other Legion weapons arms, so that I can against bosses, so that I can build up grogginess. And the other annoying thing is that you can't do it on the fly. For example, against weapons, the main weapons, I can just select on the fly in the middle of battle, and I can change it if I want. But Legion arm, you can't. You have to basically come into the hotel or to a save point and then change it. So for example, this one is really good at building grogginess. Let's try it out. If you remember, using basic attacks like this, you need 3 to 5 hits. Let's try this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa, this is really bad for building grogginess. Oh, doesn't build groggy state at all. This is really bad. Okay, it took like 10 hits or something, which is really bad. Now, let's say you equip the main weapon, it doesn't build the groggy state. So what can you do is use this kind of arm weapon to help with the groggy state, building the groggy state. Let's try it out. See, it's already there. Just one hit. One hit build the maximum groggy state. So with the charge attack, for example, it's really slow and it really doesn't build anything. But if you go like this, it quickly builds up groggy state. So this is usually useful against bosses, especially in the second half of a boss fight, because the Legion has also a gauge that doesn't refill automatically. So you need to use either something like this, items, or you need to, every time you reset from a checkpoint, it's gonna refill automatically. So if you are in the middle of a fight, the only way to refill the Legion arm gauge is through this item. Alright, so the other thing about the gameplay that most players don't like is the fact that you need to sharpen the weapon. On the bottom right, you can see that the weapon, after a few hits, it's going to reduce its lifetime, and then it will break at the end if you don't fix it. So, actually, you know what? Let's not fix it. Let's use it completely and see what happens. If I remember correctly, it takes forever here, but in a boss fight, usually it's going to deplete really quickly. Because it also... Oh yeah, let's use this one. Blocking also reduces the... Yeah, this weapon is really bad. It's so slow. If you do a perfect block, I think the weapon does not lose. Okay, now it's red, so let's see if we block. So you see all the oil, black oil on the floor? It doesn't work properly. So it's the damage is lower, and it loses this kind of oil. Let's see what happens if I completely... I'm not zero. Now it's broken. Weapon is completely broken and I can't use it. Actually, I can use it, but the damage is extremely low. So let's see if it can actually repair here. You can't bring it back to life, even if you try to repair it. So that's why you need, in the middle of battle, you need to... Let's try to switch to another weapon and see if it can revive in the background or something. No, it's still completely dead. So you'd have to go to a save point, I think. And then come back. Let's say we go to the Stargazer. And then the weapon is back again. So you have to go to a checkpoint in order to revive the weapon. So what else about the gameplay? So really, in the middle of the battle, you have to basically do this whenever you have a chance, so that you can keep your weapon nice and sharp and in good health. Yeah, so for the stamina, if every time you hit, this is similar to Neo 2, every time you do any type of action, you lose stamina, the green bar on the top left. Even if you run, this is similar to Neo 2, you will run out of stamina. And pretty much all the actions. Let's try Fable Arts. Fable Arts don't use the blue gauge, not the green gauge. Let's try it out. Yeah, so it doesn't, and this. Also, the finishing move doesn't use any stamina. If you move around without running, it doesn't use the stamina. So the stamina, I think, has a different name in this game, so let me just make sure I'm using the right name. Yeah, so this is the stamina I was talking about. And even when you guard, you lose some of the stamina, unless you do a perfect block. Oh, okay. If you guard is successful, it will reduce the damage, but it will cost stamina, and the damage will be transferred to guard regain. Yeah, so this is like a bit more complicated. It's endlessly complicated. Essentially, when you lose this much, you see that the light green, light red here. If you attack the enemies, you can regain that part of your HP. Yeah, let's try it out. So against this guy, if I just do this, let's see how much. So if I do this, in this training mode you don't lose HP, and so we also don't. Let's see if I can lose stamina by doing a perfect block. Oops. Yeah, it's not visible here. Maybe it's just because it's training mode. I'll show you later. Alright, so now this is about the gameplay. I think it's not as polished as other games like Neo 2, but it's more fun than Wulong, I would say. So let's now look into the visuals. The visuals on the first impression is that they look gorgeous, especially the textures of the rocks, walls, metals. They all look, clothes as well, they all look gorgeous. Especially I'm running on a mid-tier GPU and it's still looking amazing, right? The problem, visually speaking, is when it comes to high demanding physics. For example, water, rain, fire, and foliage. Foliage is extremely bad. It's boxy. It's barely moving, and it doesn't react to the character going through. Tree foliage is 2D essentially. It's basically from. It's like it's coming from the early 2000s. It's outdated type of technology. And the grass is also doesn't react at all, if you can see it here. So foliage is bad. Puddles, they don't react properly. If you take an old game, for example, Assassin's Creed, Syndicate, just look at the physics of the water, the puddles, the mud. It's insanely detailed for a 2015 game. This is a 2023 game and the physics of the water are completely absent essentially. You can see a little bit of ripple effect, but it's extremely bad compared to... It's basically not a 2023 game. Lighting is also pretty poorly done. I personally don't care, but if you care about the lighting essentially uses a single source of light. So if you are close to a source of light like here, you'll see that it casts a shadow behind you. Like this, for example. You can see that the shadow. If you get away from it, it's as if like when you have multiple sources of lights. For example, if I get close to the air, you'll see that you have a nice shadow from one source. But if you go in the middle, the shadows completely disappear. Instead of having a complex shadow from two sources of light, it's completely absent. Essentially, they don't even simulate that. It doesn't bother me, but if you want realistic lighting, this is not the game that does that. And by the way, my settings are at maximum. I am at so I'm using the RX 6650 XT, and I'm at using 1440p, and all the details of the game, they are essentially at best everything, texture, and lighting, everything, vegetation quality is best, even though it looks like crap. So visually speaking, I think it still looks overall really good. The reason is a large percentage of what you see are either rocks, metals, or like other types of textures. You don't see a lot of water, or also electricity is pretty well simulated. If you look at here, it's pretty nice. This is like the effects from Unreal Engine 4. It looks pretty nice. Even inside buildings, the attention to detail is good. Textures are amazing. But the NPC character details, I'm not impressed. They kind of look washed out.
I'll use my power to help you.
Yeah, They don't really look great. Hair texture is also not that great. Alright, so now let's go into the sound effects. Sound effects, when you are in the middle of music-wise, it's not very engaging. The sound effects of the hits from the weapons, they're I think well done. Deflecting a normal hit also has a very nice sound effect to it, similar to Sekiro. Let's hear it out. It's really nice when you do a perfect block. But the thing I don't like about the sound effects is the red flash attack. Red flash attack from the enemy is the strongest, and if you block it in other games, for example Wulong or Nioh 2, you're gonna get an even better sound effects that are very rewarding and very satisfying. But in here, they have the same sound effects as normal hit type of deflects. Let's try it. Sound slightly the light effect is nice, but the sounds are very similar. Slightly more, engaging, but it's very similar compared to Nioh 2. In Nioh 2, if you deflect a red flash attack, it's extremely satisfying. Nothing like in this game. I think I did all the elements I wanted to discuss. Let me know if you have any questions while I'm in this training ground. Otherwise, I think I'm gonna go ahead to the final boss and mess around with it. I wanted to show... Let's go back and just show you how to build the groggy state. How hard it is with certain weapons.
Want me to look at...
So we go here, and let's bring the original rapier back. And let's bring the original electric, whatever the name of this weapon is, electric coil. Let's bring it back and go to the final boss and see how quickly we can build the groggy state. You just see how insanely painful it is. And by the way, none of these weapons have been upgraded, so that's why I wanted to make them as fair as possible. So one thing I haven't showed in the gameplay is how there is a spirit that can help you fight the boss fights. What you use to summon them are these materials. It can be used at crack sculling in front of a boss area to summon a specter. So they call them specters, and they help in boss fights. I'm going to show you how they look. Let's try to build the groggy state on this one using... Oops. Yeah, groggy state for a small fry like this doesn't really matter. It's really quick. So right now, let's just go to the boss fight. One thing interesting about boss fights is that they are immune. This area is immune to enemies. So I can stay here, nobody can approach me. And I can go kill them and come back. So I can mess around with them with the grapple, grab them and kill them here. Kinda convenient. Just a quick tip. So here I can summon a Spectre. I'll do it later. Let me do a little bit of solo gameplay and then summon the Spectre. So part of the reason why I don't like the fact that if the enemy is in a groggy state, I want to do my finishing move in any like distance from the enemy. But here, when you have the enemy focused on the Specter, and the enemy suddenly enters the groggy state and you are behind it, by the time you make it in front of the enemy, the groggy state is already gone. So that's one of the issues that I dislike about the boss fights here. So for now, let's just go in and see the cinematic. Check the textures of this boss. It's all metal, but it's really well done. So listen to the music. There is almost no music during the boss fight, which is really weird. Actually, there is music. There you go. So let's try to build groggy state on this guy. If you want to practice, deflecting, this boss is really good for that because he is more predictable than the other enemies. Even though it takes a few tries. Still not groggy. Even though I'm doing a lot of perfect deflect. Even though I'm doing a lot of good deflects, still no groggy state. That's why it's super painful. See? A lot of deflects, but still no groggy state. Oh, now it's in the groggy state. It took forever. See, now I have to be in front of him in this red zone in order to trigger the finishing move, and I missed that. But you get the point. Essentially, it's a very short moment and you have to be in front of it exactly at one spot. Now you can see also why you should worry about the weapon health, because I almost broke my weapon during the fight. Alright. So now I'm gonna play with a different weapon and try to kill it. So pretty much the review I wanted to do is done. If you have any questions, you can write down in the comment section or ask me here if you are online. Alright, now let's switch into the weapon that actually builds groggy states the fastest. Okay, now I'm gonna use the Spectre as well, just to see how a realistic fight works. You know what? I'm just gonna ignore all these guys. Oops. Let's summon the Spectre. I and let the boss fight against it. So if you summon the Specter, one problem is that it becomes harder to deflect the enemy, and deflecting the enemy is extremely important in boss fights. So it's mostly to buy you time at the beginning to do some chip damage, essentially. This is an example where I am behind the enemy. This is phase 2 of the enemy, of the boss. It has iframes when he does this move, which is annoying. And there you go. That's how you kill using the Specter, deflect and using the Legion weapon to inflict a lot of groggy state, and that's it. So that's pretty much my review. I'm just gonna like finish this section quickly and go, and then I'll call it a day.
Whew, I think we're done here, pal. Back to the hotel.
Yeah, this is the end of the demo. We will get more weapons, an electric, we will get an electric Legion arm, but there's no really any enemy to test it on. There are no more bosses, so it's kind of useless. I'll just go test its groggy, like how much groggy state it inflicts, and then essentially call it a day.
Ah, you've returned. Always remember, speaking my friend. P organs are the source of your powers. Collect quartz to get the strength you need. Remember, the hotel is the last safe. Be careful. Beware.
So this P-organ stuff is it's more unlocking more skills. Some of them are passive, but let me show you. For example, here it can increase the number of potions I have, but there are some interesting stuff. This increases the blue gauge. This one is also good. It increases the window for the groggy available window. So when the enemy is groggy, you can do extra damage before doing the finishing move. Or if you are behind the enemy and you have to go in the front, then you have some extra time. So yeah, I think they really need to fix the fact that you have to be exactly at the specific spot to trigger the finishing move. It's really annoying. Yeah, so these are the only ones that are available. Actually, if you click on them, there is more. You can see here attack type. This is the charge groggy. Okay, I don't know exactly what charge groggy is. Fatal attack. Yeah, charge groggy essentially increases the amount of groggy attack. This is increase the groggy duration. Yeah, etc. So I think if it were me, I would focus a lot on the groggy state because it makes boss fights so much easier. The rest is kind of optional. Yeah, so there are a lot of things you can unlock here. Here I only have one of these, so I can only unlock one thing. But there is no way to test it, so actually never mind, I have to. So yeah, this is it. I don't know what's the final game, how many things we can unlock, but these are nice to have. I think now I have one more thing. Yeah, so if I go to the blacksmith girl, she will give me the final arm of this demo. I want to test how much groggy state it does.
I picked up traces of Why don't we, Mr. Vinny? The puppets get fried. You're going. He's the. I heard he went to.
So again, this is very similar to Devil May Cry 5. Let's try it out. So this one. So this original one has an attack of 174. This one has very low attack, so it's mostly just to grab enemies. This one has 155. This is pretty big increase in damage. So I expect this also to have a single hit groggy to fill up the grogginess of the puppet. Let's try it out to the dummy, training dummy. Let's try it out. If I do just a single hit, it already fills up without even a charged attack. This is insane. I can do a charged attack. You know what? Let's see the charged attack, how much damage it does. So if I press and hold, yeah, it does more damage, and this is really good for boss fights. It inflicts electric status and fills up a lot of the groggy gauge that we don't know where it is, but it's not visible, but we know it's there. This is it. I think I'm gonna stop here. If you want me to do another review of a game that has a demo, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna resume streaming Devil May Cry 5 until I finish the story. At least I want to try Virgil. Alright, thanks for those who are joined online, and I'll see you next time.